Welcome to GDOC 2020. Now, if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you believe as we believe, which is that inclusivity is an integral component to successful game design. And now, with this talk, exploring inclusivity as a KPI driver, we're going to cover exactly what KPIs are and how we can measure the effect of inclusivity in driving these KPIs. Now, our speaker, Johnny Liu, has been in the industry for 8 years in QA, community management, and product management. He's currently a product manager at Standing Stone Games and is working on Lord of the Rings Online and Dungeons and Dragons Online. Show all your support and love in the world for Johnny Liu.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining my talk. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about inclusivity and how it drives KPIs. So we're going to get started right into it. Let's define what a KPI is first. Many of you may have heard this phrase before and are wondering what exactly it means. A KPI is just short for a key performance indicator. What it does is it tells you a specific thing about your game at a specific frame of time. So for example, you might hear something like retention rate. So day 1 retention is how many people are still playing after day 1. Day 30 is 30 days later, how many people from that cohort are still playing, and day 90, and so on and so forth. Some other very common KPIs you're going to hear being thrown around in business speak is ARPU, average revenue per user, and ARPUPU, average revenue per paying user. Now, these are all just numbers and ratios, and the big thing is don't just trust the KPI number. And I'm going to show you why in just in the next slide. It's never going to be the whole story if you just look at the ratio. Here, we're going to take a look at 2 sample populations. Both of these have an ARPU of $2 per user. So these are 2 separate sample data sets I created. One's on a bell curve, one's on a bimodal distribution. Number of users and how much money they've paid for your game. So you can see if I just say the ARPU of this game is $2, well, I mean, they look like the same game, right? Okay, but if we take the ARPUPU, which means we remove all of the $0 paying users out of the equation, we now have a game that is $2.35 per user and then $2.85 per user. In the extreme cases, we can do, say, one person pays me $200 and 99 people don't pay me anything. My ARPUPU then turns into $200 per user. But what if that $200 person leaves? Then I've got no money. So that's why it's important to not just pay attention to just the KPI, but also the underlying data behind it. Why is it important to test these KPIs is because you want to make a change to your game. You want to know if your change is doing the thing you want or is it doing the thing you don't want, so you know not to do it again. So to test this, we do this like any other science experiment. A null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. Okay, well, I want to do this thing. What happens afterwards, right? You measure it and you measure it again and test the changes, right? Ultimately, you want to limit your outside factors such as Black Friday sales or any other external factors that you cannot account for. So like Christmas, for example, or holiday seasons for anywhere in the world. Like you want to pay attention to those things and make sure that you're measuring like things with like things. You want to plan out what you're going to measure it, and do it the exact same way again. So you're comparing as many apples to apples as you can. So when we talk about inclusivity, I want to talk about an example testing that's going to come up that I'm really interested in is World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, they introduced new character options. And what I want to talk about is what happens if you do an acquisition campaign based off of these new character options, right? Let's run an A/B test on acquisition then. Let's do 2 different ads, one that's a representative character and one that isn't, because we know WoW hasn't really been exactly fully representative. So now we've got a null hypothesis, something that looks like what we've done before, and something that's brand new. And then we could do an ad buy and organize the data based off the population demographics. For example, the people who saw ad A and the people who saw the new ad. And then we could track these people throughout their behaviors and see what the conversion rate is, what the retention rate is, maybe the recruiter front efficiency. Among all the other things that you can also test, you can just see how much does making an inclusive game make a difference in acquiring or reacquiring your new users. moving forward, this is important because I'm going to show you two graphs that's just going to really sum up a lot of it. First one on the left, you're going to see that there's a lot more women gamers coming in to the market. Since 2006 and 2019, you're going to see about a 10% increase in the market split between male and female. And then for the average household income and spending and age, millennials like me and Gen Z, we're going to be more than half the population coming up. That's the future. There's going to be a lot more money and a lot more people coming in who want to play these games. And we know that these populations have more minors and more women as a growing segment. So it's important that we pay attention to these growing segments and take advantage of the opportunities, because we want to play games that are made by us, that are made for us. But the problem is, no one's doing any research into the data to show investors that doing these things and researching into these things is profitable, is going to help us be better. And we're going to make better games because of it. And that's why it's important for us to start thinking about inclusivity into our KPIs, to tell people, hey, look, this is a profitable venture. This is better to do because you're going to make more money out of it. Thank you for coming to my talk. I really appreciate your time. You can find me on social media. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to talk. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Johnny. I know that it was a short talk, but I think that you had such a powerful message because, again, I'm just a big fan of seeing myself or characters that, kind of represent me and look like me in games and just media in general, whether it's like movies, TV shows, or just anything. I'm more inclined to support something if some character is in it that looks like me, represents me. And it sounds like common knowledge, but just as you've shown, there's a thing where when you have investors involved, there are people who are kind of just like looking at, numbers and not kind of the right way. So they can't measure the effect of, they can't see into the future of how, okay, if I put these characters into my game, this is how it affects, my bottom line. And so looking at the kind of data that you put together is really awesome, and it makes a really clear point. So thank you so much, Johnny. We appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So now if you're watching this and you think that, seeing yourself in games and media is super important, we want you to comment, we want you to share this, we want you to like it, and make it known that, yeah, it's important to see, characters who kind of like, represent you and your style in games and media. So thank you very much for your support. Keep it locked in because we got much more where this came from.